Welcome. Okay, there we go. So, the Food and Brand Lab and the Ben Center. As Dr. Ho mentioned, the Food and Brand Lab is kind of the consumer research side of things. This is what, as she said, Dr. Wansink has published a book in Mindless Eating. So what he looks at is consumer behavior. Do people, in fact, respond the way we expect them to respond in a particular situation? I was mentioning earlier to the group as we were walking around to all the food service areas that we just wrapped a study on soy. How do you think people feel about soy? All right, remember when I said it was collaborative?
They don't like tofu.
They don't like tofu. No, in fact, the study we just wrapped indicated that people on average believe that tofu is equivalent to punishment. Yes, and that is because as a healthy American individual, if I have done something wrong by consuming too much red meat, I am therefore punished by eating a plant-based diet, which in fact means I'm eating tofu. That came out of the Food and Brand Lab. Okay, so that's working with the soy board. This tends to be a lot of our funding model comes from corporations, and so that's the corporate arm. My arm actually is the Ben Center. So we do all of our school-focused research. I take what he has found in the external world as adults working in consumerism and apply it to schools. We want to see if kids, in fact, behave the same way as adults do under the same influences. All of my funding, however, comes from the USDA. So I operate on a grant that comes from the USDA. That means I cannot be partisan. I cannot say we support X, Y, or Z in terms of helping children eat. That also means that when we go into lunchrooms and when we do studies, we tend not to partner with people who are already working in that area. All of our stuff is independent. Everything we have is research-based. Okay. I do like to give you a little background on this because we're all quite familiar, especially since we are in the food and nutrition field. Hidden influences in our diet, studies that have been done, we know we eat more when we're distracted, right? We know when we're eating in front of the TV, we're going to eat more. If we're eating from the bag, we're going to eat more. And on average, it's about 28%. We eat more when there's a larger portion size. This is one of my favorite studies where we went into movie theaters and asked people to do a taste test on popcorn. Please bring your buckets back. What they didn't know is we were actually looking at serving sizes. We gave them either a small, medium, large, or extra large tub of popcorn, allowed them to eat it, and then as they came back, said, how'd you like it? And they were like, it was really crap. It was really bad. We didn't like it. But on average, what we found is that they ate 75% of it, regardless of the size. They ate it. The kicker of it was that it was 2-week-old popcorn. So when we go out and we start talking to people about our behavior, when we're distracted, when we're in a food environment where we think we should be eating, we eat more. That's important in terms of schools. Larger plate, larger meal. Again, portion distortion, 25% more eaten when we're eating from a larger bowl. Fat-free. This one I love because I fall into this camp, right? Do you think people eat the same amount of granola if it is a fat-free granola or if it is a standard granola? You'll eat more if it's fat-free. I can afford more. I earned more, technically, according to this. By making a healthy choice, I am allowing myself the opportunity to eat more of it. And in fact, it's 35% more, just because it's fat-free, just from the labeling. That's the whole vegetarian concept. If I'm eating a vegetarian meal, I can therefore offset by eating more carbohydrate, because I'm not eating meat. I earned it. Hide the candy. We know if we have a candy dish around, we'll eat from it. It's really interesting. A lot of times I go to conferences and they have the mints out on the table. I like to present right before lunch, obviously, for obvious reasons. And it's funny to watch as people are listening and they're just popping mints, eating mints, right? On average, though, we're looking at a gain of approximately 15 pounds over the course of a year just from eating conference mints. So my agenda today, okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the School Lunch Challenge. How many of you have experience working in schools, in elementary, middle, or high schools? Okay, so a lot of you are familiar with it from a food service perspective. And then I'm going to kind of delve into the theory, talking about behavioral economics, the psychology. Then we're going to talk about the Smarter Lunchrooms movement, and finally wrap up with how do I get started on doing these kinds of things in my area. So to begin, I would like to play a little game. In groups of 3 to 5, I'd like you to come up with one word that you think describes or identifies school food. Go. Discuss. what words you came up with?
Cisco.
Cisco. What else?
Processed.
Processed. Yes.
Ew.
Ew. What else?
Bland.
Bland.
Can be good.
Can be good.
I've had good food.
That's not one word.
No, that's true. According to the rules, I'm sorry, you've been eliminated because it's not one word.
I hyphenated it.
What? Oh, she hyphenated it. It's all one big hyphenated word. What else? What else do we have?
Fast.
Dense. I'm sorry.
Appealing.
Fast. Fast.
Available.
Available.
Pizza.
Pizza. Love me some pizza. Okay. Interesting. What is unique about every single one of those words? What unifies it? This root.
Perception of unhealthy.
Perception, in fact. Resoundingly negative perception, in fact. Our word that we came up with was fried. How many of you think fried foods are still available in schools? They are, in fact, not. This is an institution where, based off of regulation in a highly regulated situation, we have a perception of the food that we're receiving. Okay? We all have an image in our head of whatever school we're either familiar with or whatever school we graduated from. Or whatever, it could be a prison. I've worked in prisons. They have cafeterias. It could be a garden, right? What's interesting is, as soon as someone said can be good, we started getting available, fast. It started to shift. I can be positive. I can. Someone else is positive. Clearly I can be positive too, right? But from the get-go, we have a negative perception of school food. How do you think these words impact the school environment? Anyone?
Negatively.
Negatively, yes! I'm so happy you got that. I was baiting it. Okay? Kids aren't dumb, right? We as consumers react based off of perception quite frequently, right? So now if we, the ones who are supposed to be supporting school food, are going in with an idea that it is bland, processed, dense, ew, and then we're expecting them to enjoy it and come back happy. Interesting. So how does this then affect our mission? From the very beginning, as supporters of nutrition and as supporters of nutrition education, we have to change the perception of what we're telling people. What are we telling people about school food? We go out and we fight for it, but yet we still feel ew, right? There are things that always need to change. But I always like to start with this, because this is what most people feel when they think of school food. Almost everyone has this perception, this negative perception. You'd be very interested to do this activity when Janie Thornton's in the room. For example, she's the USDA Undersecretary for School Food. Once she's in the room, perceptions change, right? Maybe it's not so bland and processed. Now, if we think about this from a teacher's perspective, right? Teachers feel very similar to this. And if we're going out and saying, students, go eat your bland, processed, dense food and then come back ready to work in an hour. Okay? That's insulting as an adult, is it not? As an adult, I would be insulted if you said that to me. My word is opportunity. Okay? We have an immense opportunity to get healthy, nutrient-dense foods into little hands to help influence behaviors that make healthy decisions later. Okay? That's my niece. Isn't she the most cutest? The cutest little thing ever. She gummed that apple for hours. But I gave it to her for this photo opportunity. Okay? We have an opportunity to help change this perception. And this is why we want to start creating programs that help engage students and engage the population. What issues affect change in school lunch? What do you think? What things affect change?
Cost.
Cost. I like it. I started with rising obesity rates. School lunches, the perception is, right, you obviously feed the most kids, so it is your problem. Right? As nutrition educators, we tend to believe, well, there's a couple other things influencing that. Maybe we should change that a little bit more. But the general perception is, yeah, school lunch, it's making people fat. Clearly. School lunch administrators are under pressure to improve quality of that food. Right? We all thought it was easy just a minute ago. Ew, right? But we don't necessarily understand that the USDA regulations there are there to control it. Then we also have the nutrition. They're being pressured. Cut sugared beverages. There should be no sugar. Kids should not have access to sugar. Why are you giving them sugar? They should not be having dessert. They should not have pizza. They should not have hot dogs. Is that realistic? Not necessarily. Not all the time. Various proponents for pushing the whole grain, the vegetarian, organic, raw. Do I want my pre-K eating raw? There are people who think they should, right? We all own nutrition. We all believe that nutrition is something that can be healing. That's wonderful. But this is often not what students want, right? This isn't necessarily where kids are coming from. This isn't where we as consumers are coming from either. I know I work in this every single day, and I still fall into the same traps. It just happens. But what it comes down to is that heavy-handed or short-sighted interventions are often not what students want and can have an even greater negative impact on that environment. So the challenge, like we said, increasing nutritional quality. We want to maintain the low cost because it is a business. We want to increase participation because it's a business. We want to help encourage healthy decisions. But then there's also another piece to school food that I think a lot of people forget. It's our responsibility to inform people of what's going on in school food. Okay? All this big USDA push, right? We've got brand new regulations. People who are doing it correctly, who are doing it well, should be out educating other people on how to do it well and being effective. So what does it mean for me? That's great. We all had fun talking about USDA regulations and perceptions. What does this mean? We have to help balance the equation. I'm going to go ahead and show you a video that introduces the Smarter Lunchrooms movement.
Professors at Cornell University have found that just by switching up the layout of a lunch line, you can make students eat healthier without them even knowing it. So let's see if it works. Right now, the lunch line is set up the way it normally is. So we're going to track what the students choose with this layout. On this day, what do these teens want to eat the most? The bad stuff. They snapped up tacos, cookies, and sugary drinks, but the skim milk and the bean burrito were a tough sell. In fact, just 6% of the school got fruit and only 11% got vegetables. Based on my experience as a lunchman, these teens aren't even close to the government's goal of having half their diet be fruits and vegetables.
Okay, so this is a truncated version of a much longer video. How many of you are familiar with Channel 1? Yeah, we got a couple of you guys. Can you tell me what Channel 1 is? I'm going with her. I like her.
Me?
Yeah, you.
It's the news show that we watched when I was in 6th grade during lunch.
So it's hosted by MTV. MTV goes into the schools. It's usually like a homeroom video, or it's like they have like little news anchors that like run out and they're like, hey, how was the football game? You know, super corny. But in general, very exciting, right? That gentleman who was on that video was a news anchor for MTV's Channel 1. We had him come in because they were interested in, geez, how are we going to get, this obesity issue? We're going to nail that issue. And what we did is we said, okay, well, we're going to start looking at smarter lunchrooms and some behavioral economics and see if maybe we can take some of this food and brand lab consumerism and apply it in a controlled setting in schools. See if it works, see if it's effective. We looked at the school lunch trilemma. This is where we started. Okay, you can't really read that. I'm sorry, that's unfortunate. But basically, what it says here, we know that they're under pressure to improve nutrition. They have to maintain cost, maintain participation. But what we're saying is, if I, as an adult, come into the lunchroom and say, I'm not offering chocolate milk, what do you think the response is going to be?
Boo.
Boo, right? I'm not going to buy then. The only reason why I was here was to get the chocolate milk. Thanks. Right? Or I'm just going to find it somewhere else. If, for example, I don't know where you shop out here. Oh, God, I didn't even do that research. Where do you buy groceries? Safeway. So Safeway stopped carrying a particular brand or a particular item. What would you as an adult do? Go somewhere else. That's no skin off my teeth. Whatever. I don't care. I am a consumer. I will find it where I want to find it. Okay? Either that, or let's say they then cut all of the products that you're interested in. I'm not shopping there anymore. Right? As a consumer, we used that and applied it to kids as well, the same principles. This is where we start getting into the behavioral economics. Choice architecture. How many of you have any idea what choice architecture is? It's basically a big fancy word for something we do all the time. Okay? This is a behavioral economic principle that says, I am going to design a choice that will lead you to the answer that I want without you knowing it. Every person who has had interaction with children has done this. Do you want to go to bed now or in 5 minutes? Either way, the decision has been made. You're going to bed. But I'm empowering you to choose. You now have the opportunity to make the decision for yourself, right? Would you like carrots or celery? Either way, you're having a vegetable, right? That's what I'm asking. Would you like a vegetable? I can say no. If you want one vegetable or another vegetable, I now have a comparison point. I can then decide, well, I wasn't thinking about veg before, I guess I'll have vegetable. But clearly, carrots are so much better than celery. Right? So I'm going to go with carrots. That makes much more sense to me. But before, I wasn't previously thinking of it that way. In general, this has got a big bang for its buck. It doesn't cost me anything to provide the opportunity for this, especially with the new USDA regulations. Selection is no longer as important. Kids are being forced into selection. But if we want them to be happy with the selection, give them a choice. Give them the option to choose a vegetable that they like. Would you like warm peas or would you like baby carrots? I don't like peas. Peas don't go with pizza. I'm getting carrots, right? This kind of principle is relatively easy to apply. So what about behavioral economics in terms of psych? We have two different principles in terms of psychology and behavioral economics. The first is reactance, okay? If I said this morning, you are not allowed to have cereal, what is the first thing you think of? Cereal. What's wrong with cereal? Why can't I have cereal? Is there something in the cereal? Is it all cereal or is it just this brand of cereal? Why is cereal now an issue? Did something happen with cereal? Right? We start asking lots of questions. We react. We say, no, that doesn't make any sense. Why are you telling me this? Right? This is a rebellion against the threat to freedom. Again, kids are like notorious for this, right? You say no, don't press that button. I guarantee it's been pressed 1,000 times before you come back. What's going to happen if I press the button? Seriously, right? Tell me. There's got to be a reason. Aside from that, my favorite story to define this principle is something we call limits on ketchup. How many of you have heard about limiting ketchup in school lunchrooms? Woo! We got someone like raised her hand like hardcore. I know, right? There was a particular school in Ohio that decided that their kids were getting too much sodium, too much sugar. They were just using too much ketchup. Too much. Okay?
Sounds like Ohio.
Are you from Ohio? Uh-huh. See, we're going to talk later.
Yeah, Bowling Green, right?
So what they did was what any rational adult would do, right? We are going to limit the amount of ketchup they're allowed to have. That will stop them from getting ketchup, in fact. So how do you think they implemented this?
Took away the pumps.
Took away the pumps.
One packet per customer.
One step further. Exactly. They made a ketchup Nazi. Okay? They had a person standing at the end of the line handing out a single ketchup packet as the students left. For whatever it was that day. Chicken nuggets or French fries or whatever, you got one packet. That's what you get. How do you think the students reacted to this?
Ketchup black market.
Ketchup black market. They start pulling it out of their bags. There's ketchup everywhere. Surprisingly, in this particular instance, the kids were relatively mild in their reaction. There was a couple grumblings. There was not much happiness going on for a while. But ultimately, there was a win for the food service director because, guess what? They accepted it. Just like we said they would. Yes, victory. Okay, flash forward to graduation. As the seniors are crossing the graduation stage and receiving their diploma, not only do they shake the principal's hand, but they give him a ketchup packet. Okay? Not only did the kids hate the fact that they had to change, but they held on to it. They began to resent people for it. And then now, all the parents who are like, wait a minute, whoa, what's going on with the ketchup on the stage? Right? We have thousands of ketchup packets now in every single one of my graduation pictures. What is going on with that? Okay, now that's a community uprising. We got issues. Why are you limiting ketchup? Who cares about ketchup? Right? Huge response at that point. Ultimately, what it comes down to is that that's not necessarily, this is a natural psychological principle. We will react. Okay? The flip side of that is attribution. give you a choice, for example, you feel better about it. If I said you're not allowed to have ketchup, ew, that's got a problem, right? I don't like that. Or you could say, would you like, I don't know, ketchup or a fresh salsa to dip your fries in? Or would you like to try, a brand new salsa mash or something like that? If I gave you an option, perhaps ketchup is no longer the thing I'm focused on, right? The attribution here is, like I said, you're choosing between carrots and celery. Not only once you make the decision, you're more likely to repeat that decision. And I'll give you the statistic on that in a little bit. So what do you know about food decisions then? Okay? We know that we have deliberative or emotional eating. Okay? I see that we do have a couple men in here, so you're obviously operating more on the deliberative side than the emotional. Okay? Deliberative, we tend to be more rational. I'm eating this for a reason, as we are an entirely biased population in here, because we are all nutritionists, or into nutrition, or studying nutrition. We tend to try to operate on the deliberative side more than we do the emotional side, although I do fall into the I just need an ice cream sundae camp every now and then. But which one is dominant, right? That depends a lot on our environment. It depends on whether we're stressed, whether we're tired, whether we have lots of things going on, whether, I'm not feeling well. A lot of things kind of fall into this. And it takes effort, truthfully, to switch from one to the other. Okay? If I'm operating on a purely emotional state, and then I go into the lunchroom, it's going to be harder for me to make a healthy choice. We've all been there. We've all thought about, no, I'm going to have a salad for lunch, 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 and you get there, just doesn't look good. Still doesn't look good, okay? So this is where we get into the psychology of a hot versus a cold decision. This plays a large role in kids, okay? Our hot state is when we're eating for convenience, we eat for taste, we eat for visual effect. Ooh, I'm getting a big bang for my buck. This is a big meal. I'm really excited about it because I'm really super hungry, okay? This, to me, is going to the grocery store without a list, okay? I go to the grocery store without a list. Maybe I didn't think about eating beforehand because I'm on my way home from work. I'm trying to get home. I know my husband's waiting for me, and I probably have an event going on later, okay? So this is just on my list of things to do. I always come out with microwave burritos and Cheetos. Doesn't matter. Regardless of what I went in there with the intent of picking up, things migrate into the basket. And I get home and I can't make a decision. I can't even make a meal out of it at this point. I have multiple things that are all like, well, I guess I'm going to have like Cheetos and, I don't know, refried beans. Like, this doesn't work. Cold state, however, is when we're considering price. We're looking at that health information. That's the nutrition label. That's the logic side of things. We tend to eat more along the middle of that bell curve. We're looking at, well, okay, I'm feeling like this is probably a healthful decision. Now, I'm not saying that you're always eating healthy if you're always in a cold state, but you tend to be more moderate in general of your decisions. You tend to operate more moderately. You tend to have smaller portions as well. Why do you think nutrition labels on the front of packages would work? Understanding these psychological principles. When do you think they would work?
Shocking logically.
When you've had a snack, when you have a list, when you have a support group, it starts getting to the point where, yes, while we all love nutrition information, and I know I could read nutrition labels until the end of the day, not everybody is influenced by them in the same way, okay? This, to me, like I said, the cold state is going to the grocery store with a list and packing a snack, taking it one step further. I brought something to eat before I got there. So what does this mean for kids? Okay? This is actually Dr. Just's son, and he really does have this bizarre affinity to peas. He just loves them. So do we ever wonder why kids are eating less healthy, just in general, less healthy? Well, they don't have a fully developed rational system. They're kids, right? And it sounds like such a cop-out to be like, well, clearly they're eating like kids because they're kids. But that's truthfully what it is. They don't understand the consequences. I can go up to little Johnny and say, Johnny, don't eat that, you're going to be obese. And he's going to say, well, I'm not obese now. You know, like, that's great. That doesn't influence me. That doesn't affect me right now. Okay? If I walked up to Johnny and said, don't eat that, you're going to skin your knee because I'm going to push you down, that has an immediate effect. That's something different. It's like they're in a hot state all the time, right? Consider the fact that kids have all this energy. They're kind of always running, right? I'm going to go outside, and then I'm going to come inside, and then it's going to be super exciting because we're going to have nuggets. I want something I can be interactive with. I want something that I can have right this very second, and then I'm going to go play with my friends because I don't know why the sky is blue. You know, like it's just constant, all over the place, right? And on top of that, they react to paternalism immensely. That no immediately forces reaction because, well, why? Because they don't understand. Okay? But fortunately, for us as nutrition educators, kids can find some foods appealing. We just have to find a way to make them appeal to these kids. Make them little mini consumers, right? They don't necessarily understand why all of our favorite cereals are just where I can reach them as I walk down the cereal aisle. You know, we've all been in that battleground. Trying to pull kids through the cereal aisle. No, I will send them with my husband before I go down that aisle with my kids. Nope, you guys go somewhere else. I'm going to get 3 cereals that I want, and I'm not asking for anyone else's opinions, right? But we can lead them to make the right choice. Interestingly, when you talk about hot and cold studies or hot and cold psychology, we were interested to see, do kids in fact behave in a hot and cold manner in schools? We know that kids are kind of in a hot state all the time, but what does that mean for them? Okay? Well, what we did is we were in upstate New York, and a rural school had smart boards. How many of you are familiar with smart boards? Yeah, okay. What they did is every single classroom took attendance by a smart board. Kids would run in, they'd grab their little picture of their face and drag it into whatever picture of the entree that they wanted for lunch that day was. What state do you think kids are in the morning? Cold. That's the natural assumption. You're hoping every child has had breakfast, right? You're hoping that they're kind of starting to get ready to work for the day. They're kind of logically engaged. Their teacher is in front of them. Let's see if we can capitalize on this cold state for kids. And what we found was that kids who were not pre-ordering were less likely to take fruit, more likely to take starchy sides, and more likely to take like those Slim Jim, ho-ho kind of things, like those trigger foods that as I'm walking down the line, I just have to have it. Okay? And when you compare that to the kids that were pre-ordering, the kids that were not pre-ordering consumed fewer vegetables and more starchy sides. Okay? So yes, basically what we found is that kids do have a cold state. They can operate in the same general principle as we do. Now, it can be difficult to replicate. I'm not going to lie, it can be. But there's potential here. And if you consider the new USDA regulations, if we can pre-order, then we can get rid of having to have everything on the line that they can see because they pre-ordered. So this is where we start getting into smarter lunchrooms. All right? The smarter lunchrooms movement basically says we're going to design the lunchroom to gently encourage the decisions that we want. We're going to use that choice architecture. We're going to use that hot and cold state. We're going to use the psychology behind it, try to avoid the reactants, and, you know, avoid banning things. Just all out saying you can't have it because realistically, we know that's not going to carry over once they get into a collegiate environment or an adult environment. I put this slide in here. This is more for you later, but what that basically describes the principles. We do low cost, no cost, because we understand that school lunchrooms are businesses. I can't go in to every single school lunchroom and say, you need a brand new cooler. You should probably just, I don't know, drop $5,000 on that. Okay? Call me when it's there. We want to increase sales because that's obviously where they're driving their money and getting their funding. A lot of times there's a perception that school food is in fact funded through the school. However, a majority of school food operations are independent from the school themselves. They are not operating on the Department of Education budget. So when we all sit down and we all are voting on that budget, has nothing to do with school food. Okay? The school budget, however, may be implemented or may be influenced by vending. They may have vending machines somewhere because they've contracted with Pepsi to have those vending machines there, those competitive foods. Okay? But quite often, food service is independent. They are running on their own black and red. Okay? I have to make money, otherwise I go out of business. All right? Then we also want to make sure that we're keeping that variety available, helping to encourage those behaviors, and helping to be more stronger proponents. This is our best practices guide that we have available on our Smarter Lunchrooms website. This takes all of those principles of behavioral economics and tries to apply them in schools in the best possible way. Okay? It looks ridiculous because it's a matrix. We understand that. However, it's available on our website, and you can kind of see it gradually increases from something that's relatively easy, can do in any school, all the way up to this is going to take some time. Okay? Like we're going to have to do some suggestive selling and get people involved. So I'm going to go through a couple of our research studies. First, to begin with, the name game. How many of you can identify what's in casserole? What's in casserole? What is it? Noodles? Question mark?
Leftovers.
Soup, some kind of Campbell's soup? Cream based, something or other? Casserole in my house was clean out the refrigerator night. Right, whatever's left, just kind of throw it in, cover it with cheese and bake it. You know? That tends to be what it is, right? So, how many of us would be like, oh, as an adult, I'm super excited to have casserole, right? And if you went into, I don't know, one of our dining facilities here, which are fabulous, by the way, and you saw something labeled casserole, would you be like, yeah, I'm in? You got it. You know? This is something that I want right this very second. No, it's insulting. What's in that? I can't even identify. It's kind of like an odd glob, right? So if we don't even know what it is, how are kids going to know what's in it? This is where we start saying, use descriptive names. Macaroni veggie mania. Right? Okay? It's exciting for kids because, ooh, it's a mania. You don't know what that is. That's super exciting. But it's got macaroni in it, and I know I like macaroni. I know I'm into that. Okay? Veggie, ugh, we're starting to cross the border now, but it's cool. The mania got me. I'm kind of interested in that. All right? What we found is by using cool or appealing names to describe foods can increase consumption significantly. Just by naming carrots, X-ray vision carrots, it doubled consumption. So not just selection, even. Consumption. Kids ate it. Okay? Next to that, the big bad bean burrito. Okay? By the way, the kids came up with these names. I had nothing to do with the big bad bean burrito. I just want to make sure that we're all okay with that. Increased burrito consumption by more than 40%. But aside from that, they sold out. They sold out of the burrito because of the name. Nothing changed. The recipe didn't change. We didn't cut fat from it. We didn't say you can't have sour cream. We just changed the name. Change the name to something, increase sales and consumption. So why not try things, for example, if you are having a hard time getting kids to take milk or yogurt or cheese, by making a descriptive, age-appropriate name for them. Okay? Obviously, calling X-ray vision carrots in high school may not be your best choice. Right? May not work out for you. But if we can come up with something like crispy carrots, that's descriptive. I now understand those are not cooked. Those are raw carrots. Or crispy carrot medallions. Again, not cooked, tells me how they're prepared. I feel more comfortable about that decision now. All right? Give them a choice. This is what I talked about earlier about the attribution. People are more satisfied when they make their own choices. I do not want to limit that for any reason. But what we found is that when given the choice between carrots or celery, kids ate 91% of whatever vegetable they chose. 91%. Okay? We're getting to the point where there's just a bite of carrot left. Like the little bud of the carrot that you don't want because it's got like that weird little straggle on top. They're eating the food because we're giving them a choice. And then 69% when it was just carrots. So they were eating, you know, a little over half of whatever veg they got when there was no choice. We were able to bump that up almost to 100%. Keep it a choice. Requiring kids to take a fruit or vegetable at lunch. Okay? You may find that this does not always coincide with regulation. That does not mean, however, that we are not supporting regulation in this. There are ways that we can. But what we found is that it only increases consumption by 1 in 10 students. 1 in 10 students will actually eat whatever's on their plate because they're being forced. It actually increases cost by $3 for every single student that comes through. And what we're finding now, anecdotally, is that a lot of food service directors are using more of the canned fruits because they're cheaper than the whole fruits. And then 6 in 10 are going to throw that away when before they weren't going to even take it. So you just increased your plate waste. You guys heard about this. You saw the YouTube videos. Okay? But what we found is by just making the vegetable more appealing, more convenient, you've got kids to take it and eat it. I will show you a little bit further. This also applies to milk, okay? You know, when we're rearranging coolers and looking at how coolers are set up and how we're ordering milk and ordering these things, if we are trying to increase the sale of something, we want it to be the norm, right? Have you guys ever been to a conference and you look at like those little bag lunches as they're all laid out? You've got like 50 of these blue bags and 50 of the red bags and like 5 green bags. What do you think those green bags are? Vegetarian. Something is clearly wrong with those green bags, right? Something's in them that I don't want because only 5 of them are out there. Something that does not look normal. Whatever's in the blue or the red bag is the norm, okay? I'm not going to be weird and go with the green bag. So if we're trying to shift kids away from perhaps a sugared beverage or a chocolate milk by rearranging the norm so that the norm is the skim milk, you can help increase consumption and purchase rate by almost 50%. That's pretty potent when you think about it, okay? Then we found by just cutting milk, chocolate milk, it can actually drop overall sales and participation by 11%. There are kids that are marginal. They're fence sitters. The only reason why we're there is because I want chocolate milk. Those kids leave. All right, I'm going to try to wrap it up because I'm wordy. We also found an interesting effect when we were looking at trigger foods. Just by having bananas and green beans on the line, we were able to increase the overall health and nutrient density of their selections, even if they were not taking bananas or green beans. Does that make sense to anyone? Can anyone kind of give me a reason why you think that would happen?
Perceive it as being more healthy.
Perception, again. If I'm telling you guys, hey, we're all going to go to this great Mexican restaurant after this, okay? Every single one of you starts thinking, quesadilla, burrito, nachos, starting to get mindset. I understand what I'm going to have available to me, okay? But then I take you to a pizza joint. How many of you are going to feel good about eating pizza instead of what I just primed you for? Seldom, right? You may be able to switch and have a low switching cost, but for the most part, in this case, what we're finding is that kids and adults, the same, like to be primed for their environment, their food environment. So if we create a healthy food environment for them, even if they aren't selecting it all the time, they start being more moderate in their selection choices. All right, increasing variety of healthy foods. Again, this goes back to the attribution. If there are more things to choose from, they're going to be more happy with their choice. I'm going to cut through that real quick. This is a particular lunch line that we saw. Kids came in from this direction. Okay, so where do you think they went?
Hot lunch line.
Just straight to the hot lunch line, right? They would never have really seen the salad bar, which was over in this corner. All they had to do was kind of make a little triangle here. In, straight there. So what we decided to say, they were having a really hard time with fruit and vegetable sales. We said, okay, what we're going to do is just after analyzing the lunchroom and seeing that, in fact, kids did make this little triangular pattern on their way out, we're just going to pull the lunch or the salad bar into where kids are waiting. Kids are all lining up, queuing behind those registers. Increase salad sales by 200 to 300%. Just by having it there. Because now it's an option. It wasn't an option for me before. Now I'm sitting there, I'll have a slice of orange, or I'll have some broccoli now. Hadn't really thought about it, didn't realize it was here. I can touch it, it's right ready for me, it's labeled, I can identify it. Now I'll try some. This was an op-ed piece that was put into the New York Times. It's available on our website, that's the website down the side, smarterlunchrooms.org. It goes through and tells you different areas in the lunchroom that you can highlight different things. For example, moving cookies from the register to the back of the room and putting fruit there can increase sales. All right, I'm going to show you the other half of this video after we went in and use those Smarter Lunchrooms principles.
The masterminds behind the
How angry they were.
design are Cornell University professors David
So serious.
Brian wants it. I wanted to know how they're going
You
to
can tell Brian wants
basically
it.
trick teens into eating right. So what are we doing here?
The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a bunch of the milk, put it in front, so if a person's thirsty, at least they have the option of picking something up, and at least they have to reach over the white milk if they want to pick up a flavored sugared beverage.
Step 2. They took the pizza, which was the first thing in the lunch line, and moved it towards the back. And the veggies and the healthy bean burrito moved right to the front. Step 3, they renamed the healthy food.
we find that changing something as small as calling these mixed vegetables California blend or the Big Bed bean burritos increased sales by about 27%.
Step 4, they moved the fruit from a plastic tub into a pretty fruit bowl. And finally, they took the cookies and put them just out of reach.
They're going to have to ask one of the food service workers to help pick it up. We think that's just enough of a barrier to keep some percentage of kids from saying, whatever, I'll have an orange.
The professors rolled up their sleeves, made their changes, and now it's lunchtime.
Oh, there she's getting her tray.
She grabbed a sandwich.
She's getting an Arizona iced tea, I think.
An orange juice.
Ah, and she got the cookie. So, Samantha, this time you didn't get the cookie, and you got a piece of fruit instead. But why did you get the fruit this time? Why do you think?
I don't know.
Success. Fruit increased by 102% simply by putting it in a nice bowl.
The sweet drinks were also harder to get to, and Jane, Marcy, Richie, and Levante fell right into our trap. Last time they grabbed Gatorade, Snapple, and Arizona iced tea, but this time...
Well, the water was just in front, so I just grabbed it.
Sales of sugary drinks plunged by 17%, while purchases of easy-to-reach milk soared 46%.
Whatever was easiest to reach, that was good enough for them, and that was enough to get them to change.
Another hit, the Big Bad Bean Burrito, sold out for the first time ever. The professors say, on average, students' plates this time around contained about 18% fewer calories, and they made healthier choices.
Super exciting, right? That's awesome. Who would have thought that we could manipulate that environment that way? And we didn't pay those kids. They really did say those things. We, of course, however, are biasing the information by only showing you those clips. Okay. So, some things to consider from the Smarter Lunchroom perspective before we get into how to get this going. What can Smarter Lunchrooms do for participation, then? If you're considering these psychological principles, how can we increase participation in the lunch line? By identifying the foods, perhaps in other places around the school. Perhaps having teachers come in and support the lunch program by finding some foods that they enjoy eating. By encouraging people that these kids are seeing every day, like, their YMCA instructor or other individuals around them to be strong proponents for the food service program. Okay? Then what does it mean for policy? From the same flip side here. Okay? We tend to err on the side of keeping variety and keeping option for kids. Okay? We, however, understand that not every food service program is the same. It is very hard to manage every single food service program with one rule, okay, with one thing that works. All of these principles can be flexible, can be used in different manners to help improve your school based off of what you understand as an expert in that lunchroom. So now, how to get started? I just going to roll through these really quickly because I feel like we as nutrition educators already understand it. But don't be daunted, okay? When you're working in schools and with kids, it seems like a big challenge. A lot of people say, I don't work in schools, there's too much going on, it takes too much time, it just in general is a big investment in my effort. Okay, but you do want to be prepared. All right, from the very beginning, you want to talk to the superintendents, talk to the principals, show up, let them see your face. They will always want to see your face. Okay, they want someone on the ground. They want someone that they can say, hey, I'm going to call you up when someone says boo. Okay? Also, be flexible. Make that list of what you need and what you want. Okay? I want every kid to drink skim milk. Okay? What I need is, the kids that are buying milk to select white milk or, skim milk more often. I can do with that. I'm going to be flexible on trying to get every kid to drink skim milk. The 3 steps that I tend to follow is do your research, reach out, and respond. Okay? We have tons of resources available on our website. All of the studies I mentioned, I gave you, there's a reference slide at the end of this for you to look at, but all of our research is also available on our website, and you can kind of peruse that and see how that works for you. But in terms of research, there's also questions you need to ask. Okay? There's district-level questions that you need to ask. How big is the district? How do they organize their districts? For example, a rural district with 3 schools is going to be much different than an urban district with thousands of schools. They have very different organizational processes. They may not even make all the food on site. Are they a commissary? Do they have food production available? Do they do scratch cooking? You need to know these questions, or know these answers. And know the chain of command, okay? If you're working one-on-one in a small district, you may find it easier to understand the chain of command. However, blanket people with information, okay? The best thing you can do is create an independent website and say, I have a lot of information available to you. The accountability is now on you to go and look for it, okay? You're still going to have parents that come to you and say, I don't understand. Something's going on in my school. And that can shut down an operation, okay? But having the information available and being proactive in providing that information is going to help combat that. Look at the focal areas. What are the district goals? For example, is your district pushing to include wellness policies? They should already have them, but are they trying to rewrite them? Are they going to do a big push on academics this year? How does food play into academics, etc.? Very important, in terms of data management systems, pay attention to, I always like to document things, okay? Because ultimately, what does the superintendent care about? PR. Superintendent cares about how we look, okay? The food service director cares about, I know we're running out a lot of time here. If you guys have to leave, you can. That's fine. Basically, gauge that. You have to make sure that you're meeting everyone's needs. School other questions, get a feel for each school. Each school is very different. For example, in one of our schools, they were the Bobcats, and we found that in an elementary school, to increase breakfast participation, just a Bobcat stamp increased participation by about 72%. However, that doesn't work in high school. It's like being branded, right? I've been branded. I don't want that. We did, however, and keep in mind this doesn't work in every school. Is everyone familiar with like a good service bell? No? So as you leave a restaurant, if you had good service, you ring a bell. Okay? Now, I already gave you the caveat, this won't work everywhere. All right? But in this particular high school, by allowing these high schoolers to ring the bell whenever they got a breakfast, it increased participation by 35%. But then later, what we found is that it actually became a good customer service gauge, right? The food service director then knew when her staff was on. They were doing what they were supposed to be doing, okay? Know your demographics and know that each school is unique. Who to ask, again, find that one teacher that just loves growing basil, or there's always that one in there that they have all this stuff in the schoolroom that they just, oh man, I just so love it. Okay, get involved with them, work with cooperative extension. They already kind of get involved in this kind of stuff, nutrition education, you guys know that. And then start talking to those administrators, interns. I like to stress cooperative extension. In this case, they may not be working one-on-one in the cafeteria, but they may know the school community for that. An amendment, you don't necessarily have to start at the top, but be forgiving. If someone comes to you and says, why did you leave me out of this? Say, oh, I'm really sorry. I didn't even realize that, it's my fault. I messed up. I understand that. You should probably help me. What we find a lot of times in high schools is that the biggest dissenters are often the most helpful in revamping the program. If you have that one teen alpha girl that comes in and says that this stuff sucks every time, say, you know what, I agree. You should help me make it better. Okay? You have opinions. I understand that you have opinions. I want to listen to those opinions, which to a teen girl, let's be real. That's all that there is. Okay? Communication, be honest, timely, open. Send your A-team because they will. If they come on board, they are on board. All right? You have to be ready to work with them. And I'm always saying, just share the credit. All right? You may have been the one who had the fabulous idea because we all know that you did because you're here. All right? But in this particular instance, give it to the other people to take and run with and say, you guys did it. It is all you. It was all your success. I had nothing to do with it, okay? My last thoughts and takeaways, respond to people. The one thing I'm asked by everybody is for more communication, all right? That's why I spend 3/4 of my time on the road. People want to see me. They want to see the research. They want to see and have answers and talk to you. And some food service directors like me calling them every day. I said no, okay? However, but in this particular instance, you need to work out a communication plan with them. Do you like emails once a week? Do you like emails once a month? Do you want me to call you once a month, email you every day? How's the weather? etc. Further research, what I always like to say is, we want to keep choice in schools, be positive on behalf of schools, and we are always looking for more partners. So that's kind of how you have to look at it as well. If you want to make a perception change, look for more partners to help you do that. We have trainings available. I'm going to flip through that. That's just available. Our website, we have lots of wonderful stuff up there. Anyway, this is our contact information, and then we have the references. Okay. I did want to show you, this is our website. Okay, smarterlunchrooms.org. Under the resources tab and the training tab is where you're going to find all of our videos, training materials. We have a lot up there, research, journals, etc. Okay? Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns, stories, poems?
Well, one thing I'll do
I'm sorry I went over.
Let the class be excused if
Yes,
they wish to
go.
go. Thank you for a great presentation.